What makes you, you? This question can actually be answered by genetics. What is genetics? Genetics is a branch of science that deals with the study of heredity. Heredity is the passing of genes from parents to offsprings. Who started the study of genetics? Who is considered as the father of genetics? He is Gregor Mendel, an Augustinian monk in the late 19th century. He studied the patterns in the way traits are handed down from parents to offsprings. He studied heredity through the systematic breeding experiments of garden peas because of their clear and distinct visual traits. Due to the advancements in the study of heredity, several things were discovered. This includes DNA. What is DNA? It's deoxyribonucleic acid, a chemical name for the molecule that carries genetic instructions in all living things. The DNA molecule consists of two strands that wind around one another to form a shape known as a double helix. Each strand has a backbone made of alternating sugar and phosphate groups. DNA carries the genetic instruction in all living things. DNA makes up genes. What is a gene? A gene is the basic physical and functional unit of heredity. Some genes act as instructions to make molecules called proteins. Each person has two copies of each gene, one inherited from each parent. What are these versions of genes? These are known as alleles. An individual inherits two alleles for each gene, one from each parent. If the alleles of a gene are different, one allele will be expressed. It is the dominant gene. The effect of the other gene, called recessive, is masked. Which is dominant? For seed color, it is yellow since it is the one that is expressed. For seed shape, it is round since it is also the one that is expressed. How about the recessive? Which is recessive? For seed color, it is green since it is the one that is not expressed. For seed shape, it is wrinkled since it is also the one that is not expressed. For any given gene, the combination of alleles can be categorized as homozygous or heterozygous. If the maternal and paternal alleles are the same, the offspring is said to be homozygous for that gene. If the maternal and paternal alleles are different, the offspring is said to be heterozygous for that gene. The genes, the building blocks of heredity, are found in a structure inside the nucleus known as chromosomes. In the nucleus of each cell, the DNA molecule is packaged into thread-like structures called chromosomes. Each chromosome is made up of DNA tightly coiled many times around proteins called histones that support its structure. What a person looks like is the result of his or her DNA. The genetic makeup of an organism which governs a single specific trait or group of traits to create some phenotype is known as genotype. The observable characters, set of characters, or visible properties of an organism is known as the phenotype. The genetic makeup of an organism is called its genotype, and its observable traits are its phenotype. The study of genetics also involves prediction of possible offsprings. What makes this task of geneticists easier? It is the discovery of Reginald Punnett, the Punnett square. It is a square diagram used to predict the genotypes of a particular cross. It allows you to easily determine the expected percentage of different genotypes in the offspring of two parents. In 1822 to 1884, Gregor Mendel, through his works on pea plants, discovered the fundamental laws of inheritance. He deduced that genes come in pairs and are inherited as distinct units, one from each parent. Mendel tracked the segregation of parental genes and their appearance in the offspring as dominant or recessive traits. He recognized the mathematical patterns of inheritance from one generation to the next. This particular study is known as Mendelian genetics. Each inherited trait is defined by a gene pair. In the law of segregation, the parental genes are randomly separated to the sex cells so that sex cells contain only one gene of the pair. Offspring therefore inherit one genetic allele from each parent when sex cells unite in fertilization. The law of independent assortment emphasizes that genes for different traits are sorted separately from one another so that the inheritance of one trait is not dependent on the inheritance of another. An organism with alternate forms of a gene will express the form that is dominant. This is Mendel's law of dominance. The genetic experiments Mendel did with pea plants took him 8 years, and he published his results in 1865. During this time, Mendel grew over 10,000 pea plants. However, Mendel's work and his laws of inheritance were not appreciated in his time. It wasn't until 1900s, after the discovery of his laws, that his experimental results were understood. Since we are studying about genetics, let us reflect on this question. What is the importance of genetics in our daily lives?